Hello again. I'm Bob Weir with another interview of people in the news in North Texas. My guest today is Dianne Edmondson, former chair of the Denton County Republican Party and recent delegate to the GOP convention in Cleveland, Ohio, where Donald Trump accepted the nomination for president. Thank you for being here, Dianne.
Thank you, Bob, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Please tell our viewers a little about the scene in Cleveland when Mr. Trump became the nominee. It must have been pretty exciting.
It was wonderful. We had confetti coming down. We had balloons, red, white, and blue, went all over. And then came the beach balls. So we were adding them back and forth. The entire auditorium was just cheering and clapping and yelling, going, Trump, Trump, Trump. It was wonderful. It was just wonderful.
And there must have been a lot of notables there from around the country, right?
There were a few who were absent by choice, but there were a lot of very important people there. And we heard some fabulous speakers during that week, people who talked about why they were supporting Donald Trump.
We always hear about the enthusiasm at the Trump rallies, you know, and I haven't been to one, but I remember Congressman Burgess recently at an event was talking about it. He went to a rally when it was here in Dallas, and he said it was marvelous. The enthusiasm was incredible.
It is. You could almost just feel it in the room. And I read one article in some newspaper from up there that said, "Oh, it was a very boring convention, and there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm." I went, "Are you at the same convention I am?"
Yeah.
It was all week long. We had lots and lots of enthusiasm. We were all delighted to be
Well,
there.
that's great. Thank you for representing us there in Texas.
Proud to represent Texas any place.
All right, how about this? Last week, the Republican Party lost an icon when Phyllis Schlafly passed away at her home in Missouri at the age of 92. I understand that you knew her personally and wanted to say a few words about her.
Actually, it wasn't just the Republican Party who lost an icon, Bob. It was the conservative movement. It was the country who lost, really, the mother of the conservative movement here in America. Phyllis was an amazing, amazing woman, and I had the privilege of working with her ever since the 1970s in order to promote the conservative agenda on several fronts.
And in 1972, Phyllis Schlafly founded the Eagle Forum, a pro-family conservative group focusing on social issues. I understand that organization has more than 80,000 members today.
That's right.
And are you a member?
I am a very proud member. I've been a member since the very first Eagle Forum started. And in fact, I have an award that I'm very proud of that Phyllis gave me for my work to help defeat the so-called Equal Rights Amendment when I lived in Texas at that time. This is my second or third time back in Texas. But anyway, I'm a very, very proud member of Eagle Forum. Consider Phyllis a personal friend.
That's great, and it's endorsed to you as well.
Yes, yes.
Ms. Schlafly was perhaps best known for her opposition to an eventual defeat of the Equal Rights Amendment during the 1970s. Could you please tell us why she was opposed to it?
Well, yes, I can, Bob. As a matter of fact, I was one of the surrogate speakers for Phyllis on the so-called Equal Rights Amendment, and I used a speech I called the 3 Uns, because the Equal Rights Amendment was unnecessary, it was uncertain, and it was certainly undesirable. It was unnecessary because we already had laws giving women equal pay for equal work. And it was uncertain because nobody knew for sure what it was going to do in the areas of drafting women, allowing homosexual marriage and adoption of children, etc. And so those uncertainties made it very undesirable. So those were the 3 Uns that we used in talking about the so-called Equal Rights Amendment.
And I understand that she used to organize groups of women to, in order to stop this legislation, she organized groups of women to bake pies and go...
And cookies.
And cookies,
yes.
And stuff like that, and apple pie and American, you know, all the American traditions, and she would go to the senators' offices and the congressmen, and she'd stage a little demonstration to get them to turn this down. And she was tremendously successful, because it's come up several times since, hasn't it?
It has. And it's a grassroots movement, Bob. When people understand what something really is, they're glad to work for or against it. When we got involved in the stopping the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment, 35 states had already approved it. And all the presidents and their wives were in favor of it. It was just Phyllis Schlafly who really organized opposition to it. And once she got that organized, not a single other state passed the Equal Rights Amendment. In fact, Congress and Jimmy Carter was so determined that they were going to force it down our throats into the Constitution that they extended the deadline for 3 more years. They had a total of 10 years, and still not another single state ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. And that is totally due to Phyllis Schlafly and her Eagles.
That's amazing that she had that kind of organizational talent and to bring so much to bear against it. Because, you know, when the average person who doesn't understand the ERA, when you say Phyllis Schlafly opposed and was the principal behind the defeat of the Equal Rights Amendment, they think, wow, well, that doesn't sound good.
Right.
But they don't understand that what it would do to traditional women, for example, as you mentioned, being subject to the draft and forced to do battle on the battlefield with men and a lot of other things that they just didn't understand what's in the bill. Sort of like the Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
Many people didn't know
Very
about.
similar. The name of a bill often has very little to do with what it really is and what it really will do.
Yeah, it needs to be dissected carefully and understood. Was Ms. Schlafly a supporter of yours when you ran for office?
Every time. Starting when I first ran for county chair, the Republican National Coalition for Life, which was her pro-life arm of her movement, endorsed me. And then each time after that, if I ran for re-election, when I ran for national delegate, when I ran for the SREC, she did endorse me in every one of those races. Phyllis was just an amazing lady. She's somewhat intimidating, as anyone I think would be who was that great a political figure. But she was also a real person, a real lady. And I remember one time, just a real cute story to show you kind of who Phyllis is. We got to talking about men. And she was asking about my husband, whom she had met, and we talked a little bit about her late husband. And she told me that when they went on their honeymoon, now she was, I think each of them were about 25, he was a little older, they each took 2 suitcases. One of them was their clothes, the other was books. Each of them brought a suitcase of books to read on their honeymoon. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, this gal is really into this political scene, and so was her husband. Her husband was an amazing guy as well. But she was a wonderful mother. And she taught me so many things politically and political speaking, dealing with the media, researching. She was just a fantastic political mentor, and I'm going to miss her a lot.
She lived a long and productive life.
Yes, she did.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about her or your experiences in Cleveland? How you feel about the Donald or anything else?
I am for the Donald because he is our nominee.
Yeah.
And we cannot afford to have Hillary in the White House. I think, too, that Phyllis proved to be a visionary in the sense that some of the things that we were afraid would happen with the so-called Equal Rights Amendment are happening now through other ways. For example, there's a bill that has passed, I believe, the House and is being considered by the Senate that would put women in the military on a non-voluntary basis. They would be subject to conscription. They would not be exempted from combat because of their sex. That was something that we had known would happen if the Equal Rights Amendment were passed. And of course the Supreme Court has given us homosexual marriage. So a lot of the things that we saw as tearing at the social fabric of America and at the families that are traditional America's backbone are coming to pass. So I don't know who the next Phyllis Schlafly will be. I know we'll need another one. We're still waiting for the next Ronald Reagan. So I guess we'll be waiting for Phyllis Schlafly. She was a close friend of Ronald Reagan's, by the way.
Well, maybe it could be you.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm a really good follower of someone like Phyllis Schlafly, but I don't think I'm that strong or that wise a leader.
Well, I want to thank you for being here and your many years of service to the Republican Party, and I look forward to hearing more from you soon.
Well, thank you, Bob. Don't forget, vote straight Republican.
Of course. Thank you, and thank you for watching.